Hi, I'm Kathy Mills from Short Film Edits, and I'm here with Garth Gunderson for an interview today. He's currently driving, so we're working with time schedules here. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. All right. Do you mind telling us a little bit about you?
Yeah, so I am actually also from the Pacific, Kathy. I was born in Hawaii and my parents were in the military, and so I'm grateful to like be born in such a beautiful place. And then my parents got stationed around and we ended up moving to Florida. So Florida Jacksonville, Florida, to be specific, is where I actually grew up and where I'm from. I'm Hawaiian born, and I come from a military family, but my grandma was a musician, and so she, kind of at a young age, like inspired like the creative side of life, in me. So I was always inclined towards drawing and painting and things like that as a kid. And I just, I think from a young age, kind of realized like I need to do something with this. And I am still kind of figuring that out and I am definitely doing it. But, um, it's a funny thing, trying to pursue a career in entertainment. So that's kind of like in a nutshell, I also have a massive family. Um, I am one of 14 kids.
Oh, wow.
So I have
Yep.
14 siblings, and and yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, what inspired you to start acting to begin with?
Honestly, I I kind of fell into it, and I feel like a lot of my fellow actors that I've met, you kind of fall into acting in a way. Um, I took a class in high school. I took a theater class in high school, and I remember I had a teacher that assigned us a monologue with no instruction, like nothing, like no instruction or anything. And I pretty much just like studied this monologue, and I've always been like a fan of movies and TV shows and everything like that. And I watched a lot of things as a kid, and so I kind of just studied this monologue. And we went to put it up in class one day, and uh, everyone really liked it. And so I just kind of that was like my first kind of like jab at acting, and I felt naturally inclined towards it. So really, that theater class was one of the things that made me ever even think about acting as a career and an art form. Um, and so from there, I never really took it seriously, and I've kind of had a weird, a very slow burn with acting in a way because I never really pursued it full time and seriously, and up until like 2 years ago, So, um, but it's been a long journey for me. I've really technically been pursuing it for nearly 9 years, 10 years, almost a decade at this point. But it's been so up and down, and I know like a lot of my fellow actors, like during COVID, it was such a weird time, and so acting was really on the pause for me during that time, and I was really, really like many others in the world during that time was really trying to figure out like who I am and what I'm gonna do, So, but that theater class was really like my first, you know, uh, jab at acting, and it was really my foundation for it. And later on, I ended up taking acting classes around town where I was from, and so forth.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how did your work in the vertical space start?
The vertical space, you know, is something that is so new, and it's at least around 2 years ago for me, it was already a thing. Um, but are you able to see me by the way? I think I might.
I
Am I
can.
am I
Yes.
still frozen? My fro Okay, I'm frozen on my end, but I'm just making sure I'm not
Okay.
frozen on your end. But my picture's like in a still shot. But the vertical space was something that it's been new. But it's been going on for longer than I think most people realize. And when I moved to LA in 2023, in the summer of 2023, uh, there was an amazing amount of work. And my first week in LA, I had like the most auditions I've ever had in my life, and it was like, oh, I had nearly, like I think like 60 auditions in 1 week, which for me was like astounding. Prior to that, I'd really only ever done like one audition a week, if that. Sometimes nothing for periods of time. So long story short, when I moved to LA in that summer of 2023, the strike happened for SAG, and I'm not SAG, but it affects everything, and film production just tanked. And then same with the writers went on strike. Everyone was on strike. The whole film industry, as we knew it and know it and so forth, was just at a little bit of a halt. Especially with AI and that coming about, and that's still very much a thing, and that's still very much a great area right now. And with verticals really became the only thing that you could really apply to as a non-union actor. Um, and so that's where I think really that's where I saw this whole thing bloom. That's where the verticals came about, and I was like, well, I want to work, I want to be on set, I want experience, and verticals. This it and it's not a bad thing, but they were the only thing there to be cast, aside from maybe student films. And so for me, as somebody who's trying to build up a career and trying to get footage and trying to get myself out there, like I was like, okay, well, you have to adapt. And the verticals are, it's the platform right now, so you have to learn it and go for it. So really, verticals were just, they've been in a lot of my friends, they've been the only some of the only work we've been able to get these last couple of years, right? So um not that it's a bad thing, because it's an amazing opportunity, and not just for actors, but for production,
Yeah.
for your casting directors, for your producers, for your production assistants, for your gaffers, your directors and DPs and everyone, ADs. So it's really been like an economical benefit for a lot of us.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. You've worked both on camera and behind the scenes. Has this changed the way you approach project?
Um, yeah, of course. I think honestly, like, they go hand in hand. I think one helps the other. And so, like, I guess, like, when I think of things from when I'm acting or when I'm on camera, like, I do photography, and like I've helped one of my really good friends who's a really great DP. I've helped him with a lot of his personal projects and even bigger projects and so forth. So I think of things differently now as an actor, because I think of like where the camera is and the angle of it and what shot they're trying to get, what are they trying to convey through which lens they're using and so forth. So I think they all correlate, and I think, you know, being behind the camera has helped me be in front of the camera better, or at least serve it better, because I think now more than ever, um, I think this is something that was hard for me to swallow at first, but now more than ever, I feel like as an actor in this modern world, you have to be not just an actor. You're not just the face and whatever. You're not just the character. Um, you have to think of things at a macro level. So you're a producer. You're a you're a stunt person. You're a director, you're a camera operator, you're a production assistant, you're everything. And so, my bad, the alarm. So I think like to answer your question, yeah, I think like they've helped me vice versa. And I think as on the other side of the camera, when I'm maybe working with another actor and so forth, and some in any sort of note or direction, well then now I'm thinking like, okay, well I've been in their shoes. And so it's like, how can I approach them in a way that I know is comfortable and is not harsh, because sometimes it just depends on the set. There could be you deal with different people and one's approach might be different than the others, and you have to find a way to meet in the middle, or find what works best for them and how they communicate, and vice versa. And hopefully, they will also, facilitate themselves in a way that is open and vulnerable, as well as like adhesive, or cohesive, to you in the project.
Yeah.
So, um, I think that, yeah, I think 1,000%. I think working on having worked on both sides of the camera, it only helps me.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I agree. All right. You've played a wide range of characters. What roles do you naturally connect with most?
Well, it's a funny thing because I feel like as as actors, I feel like every actor has the role that they have in their head that is the role that they want to play, right? And we romanticize, we fantasize, and we're like, oh, I want to be. And typically, that role might look like a hero, right? It might be the person that is the hero in the story, and it's the good person and so forth. But oftentimes we don't explore the other sides of ourselves, the sides that we don't see, or we don't want to see. And so I think naturally I always want to gravitate towards a hero character, right? Or a character that is is beneficial to the story and is good in their morality and every or their morals. And so for me, like, I want to be like the nice, happy-go-lucky next door guy, or I want to be a knight, a knight that comes from orphanage and pain, but is able to be a king one day, or whatever, whatever that is. Superman, whatever, Elvis famously, Superman was like his inspiration as a kid. So, and I think a lot of us male actors, we naturally want to gravitate towards that because, you know, men want to be the good guys, even if we're not always good guys. But ironically enough, I tend to actually get more villainous characters, and that's been my through line. Um, More recently, especially as I mature, and become more manly, as because I have a boyish face, right? So the villain characters have been more of my through line recently. Uh, and that's kind of been like the path that I've been kind of taking. And I think it's like not my first option or first thing that I want to do, but at the same time, it's like, well, you have to kind of lean into what's working. And
Mm.
it's also different because it's like, well, now you're exploring a part of yourself that you don't want to portray. You don't
Yeah.
want, it's uncomfortable, right? And so that can be a hard thing and a difficult thing to navigate, but I think ultimately, especially in the vertical space, I'm kind of like exploring more of that, side of myself where and those characters, because they're interesting, they're fascinating, and it's different.
Mm.
So,
And at the end of your day, you're still working, you're still doing it.
and you're still working. And so I think
Mm.
that's one of the most important things because, for me, like currently, I'm not in a class, and so for me, being on set is my homework. Auditions are my homework. And
Mhm.
that's my those are the hours, right? Your 10,000 hours. And so any time I'm on set, not only can I learn something more about a different character that I'm playing, but I can learn from my fellow actors and how they approach their craft, how they approach their characters, or how they live in a scene. And so for me, it's just a wonderful learning opportunity, especially as verticals get bigger and bigger and there's going to be, different tiers of talent that kind of open up to this world. And, I think eventually like we'll be able to be working with actors that are regularly working on TV and, bigger platforms are adopting vertical platforms. And so I kind of just think about it in the long game of it.
Yeah.
um the long term, the long haul of like, yeah, I want to learn
Yeah.
from the greats because that's the only way. To me, that is the only way. I watch movies and TV shows so differently now, and
Mm.
me, that is my study.
Yeah. Do you know, I believe that some of the greatest actors are the ones that haven't been seen very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Has working behind the scenes made you appreciate crews differently?
Oh yeah, for
Mm.
sure. Yeah, crews are the magic. I mean, not that acting is easy in any way, shape, or form, but um, being behind the scenes, you know, you kind of see like the skeleton of um uh, of how a film works and how a TV show comes to life, and it's such a culmination of things, and so it's like there are I don't think people realize. I think when people watch TV and movies and stuff, it kind of just looks like it's all laid out, right? It's like it's just all there, but I don't think people really realize unless they know somebody in the film industry or whatever. They're really long days, grueling days that can be very exhausting on both sides,
Mm.
on all sides. And so, like, there's so many working bits and pieces. There's so many things that are like a little like nitpicky and attention to detail things that nobody will ever realize was ever a thing. Of like that napkin looks like it's too distracting in the shot, or like there's a stain on their shirt, and we need to get a new shirt, and like maybe you don't have a new shirt, so now you got to go get another shirt, and or there's a continuity issue with hair and makeup, and um the if you're shooting exterior, well, California, you're usually always good because it's primarily always clear and sunny. But if you're shooting elsewhere, well, the clouds are moving. If you're shooting on the beach, the ocean, the current, the tide is constantly changing, and so there's so many things that go into making a film, and I'm just gonna call it all film because it is all a film. Whether it's a TV show, a vertical, or a movie, they all come out to a long period of time. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, there's like so much. And honestly, the biggest thing is time because time is money. And, when everyone comes together on a set on any given day, everyone has to come in to bring it because, and it's almost like, I was watching this show on Netflix the other day. It was like a night show. I forget what it's called. It's like a night of the Seven Kingdoms. It's great. If nobody's seen it, I actually really enjoyed it. It's a little slow at first, but anyways, there's a scene in there where they're doing tug of war with a rope, and so that's kind of like my like analogy of like everyone needs to be pulling, and
Mm.
if there's one person that is not pulling, then things get behind on set, and it won't always just be one person. It'll kind of be like a mixture of a lot of different people. And so there's just so much that nobody ever like, and you just have to everyone has to work together as a team and communicate, or else that day becomes longer. Now you have to add another film day, um, or you have to cut the story down. You know what I mean? So like, there's all these things that like just kind of build up. So yeah,
Yeah.
I have so much appreciation for
Yeah.
behind the scenes in production and yeah.
Yeah. And they work longer than you guys as well because they're there before you get there, they're there after you leave.
They're yeah, they're there before, you know, sometimes, you know, there's like little like ongoing fun jokes and stuff. It's like, you know, when when the producer gets home, they wake, they they go into bed, for maybe a minute or two, and then they get back up and they're back on set, because
Hmm.
blurry lines,
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
blurry lines,
Lots of appreciation for crew.
tons
Yes.
of appreciation. None of this happens without it, and even the people behind the scenes that don't even are not always really even on set, like the editors.
Mm.
That's, I mean, that's the stitching, right?
Hmm.
So, um, so that there's just so much, even
Yeah.
the gear itself, with SD cards and, you're running of those batteries for the cameras, you know, power source for the lighting, so many things.
Yeah. And safety issues as well. That's a big thing. They have to keep on top of that all the time.
Safety. And you got to shoot around some things, depending on there's certain stunts, you know, intimacy scenes and all of these things that can be, daunting for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot. All right. Does music influence the way you approach scenes or emotions?
Um, yeah, I feel like I need to do a better job of incorporating music into my acting. Um, but yeah, I think, you know, there can be certain songs or certain things, that you can play for yourself, maybe before a scene or like before a set day that will kind of maybe help get you into the space that you need to be in for that day. Um, and to kind of tap into some of those emotions. Doesn't matter what emotion. Could be happy, could be sad, could be angry, um, could be lonesome and so forth. I think, and 100%, I think music is, the universal language, and I think it's something that, you know, for sure any actor could kind of have in their tool bag to kind of pull out and like explore more with
Yeah.
music and help them get into whatever headspace and world they need to be in for that scene or that character or that line or whatever it may be.
Yeah, of course. All right. What's been the biggest creative risk you've taken so far?
Hmm. Hmm. Creative risk. Hmm. I mean, I guess in a way, like, well, for one, I my hair actually used to be like down to here.
Hmm.
So I did cut my hair and I've kept it shorter because it helps me play more characters. Because beforehand I used to get typecast as, stoner guy, um, surfer guy, skater guy, drug dealer guy. So, and to me, I guess, yeah, to me, like I already knew that was gonna be a reward in a way, like a risk, yeah, but more so a reward, so it can open me up to more characters and more casting, uh, casting freedom and to be able to be cast in, more roles. And so I guess really, I guess I guess the biggest creative risk for me was really just moving to LA. I mean, I was living in Florida. Actually, I was living in North Carolina before Los Angeles, and I quit my job. I was working a corporate job in the field of recruiting, and so it was a salary plus bonus plus whatever, all the whole nine yards. And I was doing really well, and I realized I'm in my 20s, and if I don't go to LA now and try to take and really pursue acting full time, as well as dive into the world of, sorry for my alarms. I have like 1,000 random alarms throughout the day, but if I don't try to dive into this and really like pursue this, chances are I may never do it.
Yeah.
Um, so for me, I really that was the biggest creative risk. I was like that was the jump, and that jump is the hardest one to make because once you make that jump, and it's still really hard, um, but when you make that jump, it's like okay, um, this is it, and let's figure it
Mm.
out. And I'm so far away from home. So like, and the
Mm.
craziest thing is, and I'm sure a lot of I know a lot of actors that are coming from outside of California and all around the world to LA will resonate with this. Is like a lot of the times, especially right now with the economy in the US, well, you move to LA and you can't even afford to move back home. So like,
Yeah.
so
Yep.
so
Catch
it's like
22
one of those
there.
things. It's like you have to you're here. So like it's
Hmm.
make or break. You know what I mean? So it's like and for
Hmm.
me, I have set it within myself like I'm gonna try this and I'm not gonna quit. I'm just not I'm just this is what I know I have to do and so I'm find a way to do it.
I love that. I love that passion. But also, oh, I know how hard it would have been for you to cut off your hair, especially if you were like loved your long hair. Me, I have trauma with my hair, so this is not getting cut. No.
Yeah, I mean your hair is a part of you and so like it can be
Hmm.
try yeah, you might go through a certain phase of life with a certain hairstyle or whatnot or what have you, or your hair color and hair holds energy. It really does. And so it's like hopefully the energy is good energy. That chances are there's also bad energy, right? That's just life. Um, but yeah, it's hard to to
Yeah.
cut your hair.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. What's harder for you, emotional scenes or technical ones?
Um, honestly, I would say technical ones. I'm not a very technical person. I'm just not.
Hmm.
I think on it every day is different, and so like you're gonna feel different every day, and and with emotional scenes, they can be really exhausting because depending on how things go, it's like, well, maybe you gotta cry for 10 to 20 takes, give it, depending on how the scene is going.
Mm.
Um, so and that's difficult. And or maybe you gotta be angry for 10 or 20 takes, and that's difficult. So emotionally, it's like your emotions are gonna be different on any given day. The technical stuff, different blockings and maybe if there's stunts or choreography of any sort or just the way you have to cheat to the camera. Well, now it becomes of then you're thinking of those things, right? And so it's like that and that can be you can either lean into that or it's gonna mess you up because maybe now you're like, what's my line again? While you're doing an action. On the contrary, it's like, well, if you lean into that action, well then now it's gonna accentuate and you're going to be more natural delivering that line or whatever it is in that scene. And so you kind of have to find a fine balance of like what is going to work and what is not going to work, which rehearsals and everything help, with, prior to shooting the scene and, even on your own or with your scene partner. And so it's like, and the thing is like you have a perception of what it is going to be like, but it's always a little different once you deliver it or once you actually see it and you're there in the scene. So the technical stuff throws me off. That is for sure. Because I'm not very much, again, I'm not a very technical person. I'm very much, I believe that everything is supposed to happen how it's supposed to happen. And so for me, my philosophy is you can't plan for much. Because I rather it just be as opposed to like thinking of how it's going to be or what it's going to be. Because quite frankly, I don't care. And I'm a bit of a stubborn actor in that way. Um, because to me, if it's not just there, then it's not genuine. So like, I'd rather it just kind of be like this mystery that I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know what they're gonna do. I could read the scene a million times, but there's always gonna be something different there or something you can explore. So, and to me, that is authentic, and I rather it be authentic, and I rather connect with it, and I rather it connect with an audience.
Yeah. And I always say having too many expectations can lead to disappointment.
Yes.
Mm. All right. What's something you still want to prove to yourself as an actor?
Um, you know, like I said earlier, I think for me, I've had a lot of like supporting roles and everything, but I really would love to take on a lead role. Um, and I think, I know I have it in myself, but it is definitely a daunting thing. It's not easy by any means. There's a lot more on you, a lot more pressure on you. And so for me, like I want to prove to myself that I can do it and be a leading man and so forth. So for me, it's like I would love to like do that. It's a matter of like getting into that tier, into that space. And it is very competitive and it can be increasingly difficult. Um, which I'm very much attuned to, so for me it's like I know I'm very capable. I'm very confident in my craft. Um, but then again, it's like you can say that and be confident, but when you get there, it's like, okay, well now you've got to deliver and be consistent, be professional, be diligent and punctual and show up, for the project as best you can, um, to the best of your abilities. And so for me, it's like being able to like, you know, uh, be grounded and be know I'm seasoned enough to step into that role. Um, so I think for me, because I think until you do a more of a leading role, there's still a space of an unknown, right? You don't know necessarily. Um, you can have all the experience in other roles and other things, but with that amount of dialogue, character development, it's different. It's definitely a little bit of a different beast. Um, but one of my acting coaches would make a point to all of us in class, and he would say, "No role is too small," and he would just kind of say like, every role is really significant in a story, and it doesn't matter how much lines you have, it doesn't matter how much significance your character has. Is like you are playing a part, and that's where I go back to like now that I've worked on the other side, I've worked in production, where it's like, well, it's when I no role is too small. Everything is very significant, and you know now I'm more so in a space of like, well, it doesn't really matter what role I'm playing. I'm gonna treat it as if it is a lead role, if you will. And I'm trying to step away from the hierarchy of that, because it's
Yeah.
very prominent in Los Angeles, of course, and in the industry in general.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. Okay. Have you ever felt creatively stuck and how did you get out of that?
Um, well, I have felt creatively stuck, with really the back half of 2025 and almost into now, except I have so much more clarity on what I know I need to do. But I think when you're creatively stuck, it is so easy, and I'm more so than guilty of this, to sulk and sort of wither in your own, like, I don't want to say despair, but us actors, are very emotional, right? We're very sensitive beings. And so it can be so easy to get so down on when you're not working, or you maybe you're trying to get a certain agent, or whatever it might be, but you're just not getting it. You're not getting enough auditions, you're not booking, and so it's like, well, now you have to come back to the drawing board. And oftentimes it's like I catch myself like, well, I'm doing all the same things and I'm getting the same results. And so it's like, well, now you gotta change and spice things up. So
Mm.
I think creative, and I've had this really happen with music too, you know, alongside acting, and so it's been very difficult. So it's kind of like I've had this weight on my shoulders, but now I'm kind of finding different ways, new ways to approach, auditions and my songwriting and so forth. And it's really hard to break yourself out of that dark place of like, oh my gosh, like this is not working out. Well, you have to find ways to kind of like, okay, well, what can I do differently? Maybe I need to try a different formula. And maybe my headshots are old. Maybe my reel needs to be updated. Maybe, uh, you know, especially with the world we're in now and social media and entertainment, you got to post more on social media. And so it's all these things and all these factors that you kind of have to be aware of, and really the business side of it all, which is can be such a gray area for a lot of actors, including myself, because we're artists, and so we're not as naturally inclined towards the logical and the business stuff and paperwork and all these things, which is why we have agents and managers to help us with these things. So I think it's really just a matter of like, if you are creatively stuck, there's something that you are doing that is consistent, but it's maybe not working anymore. And so you still have to be consistent, but you've got to try new things, and you've got to kind of beta test and throw out your fishing lure and see like, well, let's go fishing, right? It's gambling, it's
Mm.
fishing, it's all these different things. That is this world. So it's like you just kind of have to find a way. And again, so much easier said than done. You have to find a way to change up your formula.
Yeah.
And
Without changing your morals or who you are.
without
Yeah.
changing your morals, and that's the careful side of it, right? So
Mhm.
that is like the side of it where it's like you need to explore this.
Yeah.
And really, I'm gonna be driving, but don't worry, I'm just gonna keep my eyes on the road. Um,
Yep.
but it is kind of the thing. That is the thing, right? So you have to do that cautiously. Um, which again is easier said than done, because it's like in this in this industry, especially with verticals, right? Like everything is so fast, and so you have to find yourself cautiously, and you have to find yourself and catch these breaks of wind in a way that is moral, like you said, and you have to keep hold of yourself, and because it is, I don't want to say easy, but it is definitely a risk where you could lose yourself in that process, and you're gonna have to find your way. You have to come back to your neutral zone.
Absolutely. No, definitely. All right. What's something you pay attention to in other actors' performances?
Most recently, um, when I've been watching, and it's something that is so fundamental, but it's something that we lose in acting. Is difficult because it's one of those things where it's like you can find yourself in the same process, you can find yourself in the same sort of preparations, especially if you are kind of playing very similar characters, and you're in this space of archetype, but the eyes. that has been one of the biggest things that I've been really paying attention to in my self tapes. When I go back to like maybe review some footage, and see how like I'm maybe progressing, um, with my skills and so forth. So it's like, where are my eyes saying? Because the camera exaggerates so much. And so really you don't need to be doing much, which is kind of hard sometimes when you're transitioning from theater to TV and film because it's like those movements are very need to be very small because the camera exaggerates it. So for me it's like, well, what are your eyes saying? Um, the eyes, the things between the lines too, like it's so easy, especially with the way like self tapes are. Like, you're filming in your room, either with a computer voice that you've pre-recorded. I don't use AI. I don't use any of the AI stuff, but I'll
Mm,
have to read like my other parts and as a part of like my other the other
mm,
scene if I don't have my girlfriend helping me out with an audition. But it's like the in between like nuanced things that you're fidgeting with a pencil or just squinting with one of your eyes or one of those things, and you shouldn't be really be thinking about those things, but you kind of come about them freely. You need to be like very free and open, and not as stiff, and kind of be like breathing. And that's another thing, even breathing, you're breathing in a scene, you know nobody's necessarily going to be thinking about your breathing, but if you are, um then somebody might catch it. So it's just like one sort of like let yourself kind of flow and be in there and live in there and not be thinking as much. Another thing though is even if you are thinking, then there is at least something there behind your eyes. And nobody can know what that is
mm.
unless it is maybe conveyed with some sort of emotion that you are emoting and you are giving off. You're giving off an energy. So I think really, your eyes, your facial nuances, um, what are you doing in the scene, depending on whatever the scene is, to kind of help string it along, but also without being too much. So again,
Yeah,
it's just there's such this fine balance that you have to find between all of these different things. You have to also think about where the camera is and so forth. And um, because a lot of the times you don't see what shot they're getting. You don't
no.
see you can see where they're shooting from, but you don't really know how it looks. You know what I mean? So it's like until the project comes out and you're like, oh shit, like oh damn, something was in my eye the whole time. But nobody said anything.
Whoops.
Like oh, like I looks like I had some chives with my whatever my salad or I don't know whatever for lunch, and so something stuck in my teeth and nobody said
Mm.
anything. So it's like well shit. And maybe you
It's
were
there
crying.
now. It ain't going
Yeah,
anywhere.
it's there now and it's not going anywhere. So,
Mm,
just those little things, really. It's just the little things. Um, you can't. A lot of like my favorite actors, they don't anticipate anything, you know. And that it sounds so easy, but we're all so guilty of it, even in real life, you know.
mm,
Um, so
mm.
yeah,
Yeah, completely right there. All right. Do you think acting has made you more confident musically?
100%. Yeah, because like I started with theater and I I was never trained as a musician. I never did like musical theater or anything like that. Um, I taught myself guitar and I started with the ukulele and then eventually was able to develop like a singing voice
Mm,
unknowingly. Like it's just one of those things that came about because I wanted to be a really good guitarist, but I'm not. So I'm a really good rhythm guitarist, but I can't like shred and do all those things, do all those crazy, crazy cool things that I wanted to do. I'm slowly learning, but I love melody and I love rhythm. and I love chord structures and progressions. And I've really found myself to love singing and songwriting really, but I think without my foundation of acting, especially theater, um, I would never. I would hold on. Wait, I see my girlfriend. She's got her luggage thing figured out. Wait, hold on. Baby, baby.
Oh. Well, I can let you go here.
No, no, no. But yeah, no. I think to answer your question, like yes, it has definitely helped me. Um, with both. They both have helped each other really. I think they both made me stronger, uh, a stronger performer
Yeah.
and less nerves. I have
Hmm.
much less nerves, especially after like singing and performing with a band on a stage in front of people. Like much less nerves going into like a set day now more
Yeah.
than ever.
Yeah. I do have one more quick question. I need to know this. So do you prefer studio sessions or live performances?
Oh, live performances all the way.
Hmm.
Live performances. I mean, there is something special about the studio because and I think I mean those are two of my favorite things about music is like one writing the song and recording it too. Like recording brings out a whole nother color from that original thing that you wrote and it brings it to life. Much like when you write a script and you put it on and you know you actually get your project out in a physical medium. But music exists in this really weird world. I mean, unless you have like your, music video with it, then now you have your visual aspects and everything like that, and your audio and whatever, obviously. But I think there's something special about the studio because you're building it, um, and you're really, emoting there. Not that you aren't live, but there is something just so vulnerable about live and connective with an audience and whomever and whatever that song might be. Sometimes it's really crazy, especially when you perform a song for the first time and it's like, wow, I wrote this like at 3 o'clock in the morning, like you know, randomly, and it just came about, or like some lyrics came about, or maybe a lot of times for me, I'm just kind of sitting there fiddling with the guitar. Um, and like a melody comes about and so forth and it's crazy to see it like transpire from and elevate from that moment to like in a live setting and it's crazy to like have it maybe connect with somebody and they're like I really like this or like I really feel this or this has happened to me or everyone has their different interpretation of the song maybe as opposed to how you originally thought of it or maybe you didn't even think of it at all because there's sometimes where songs you write and you're like, I don't even know what this is about, but like, I
Hmm.
don't even know what
Yeah.
I'm saying here until a meaning the song sort of sometimes will tell you what it's about. Um,
Yeah.
as cheesy and as really tacky and cliche as that sounds,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think there's nothing better than performing live, but
Mm-hmm.
there is a really special thing about being in the studio for sure.
Yeah. My favorite group is Home Free, the a cappella group. They're my
Okay.
favorite. And I love watching their live performances. I wish I could see them live in person, but it's good because they're a cappella. It's good to see how they make it all work in their live performance compared to a studio where you don't see it. So,
Free. I don't know if I've heard of them. I'll have to. I love acapella, so
hmm.
I have to dive into that. Home free.
Yeah, Home Free.
Are they an Australian group?
No, they're in LA. They, I think. Oh, hang on, don't quote me on that. They're American. They won the Sing Off the year after Pentatonics.
Wow. Okay.
Mm,
Well, I am very familiar with pentatonics.
yeah.
I love all their
So I
crazy
love
stuff.
Pentatonics too, but Home Free is more me than
Okay.
Pentatonics. Yeah.
Uh, Do they do like country or like or just
Um,
multiple?
well, they're classed as a country group. so they've got a lot of country, but they can also sing opera. They sing a lot of church music. They sing Christmas songs magnificently. I just love the different mix of what they bring, and just they're like I don't know, they're just their whole vibe is more me, but I also love what Pentatonics does. I love singing too, so I like all different genres, but I'm not musically trained or anything like that. So,
I mean, I don't think you. I think music is in everyone. To like
mm,
some degree. I think it's a very human thing. And I think not even human thing. I think it's a very, I guess, like Earth thing. I think music comes about not just from humans, but from the planet, really. Waterfall, a hole in a tree with wind whistling through it, and like
hmm
all
Yep,
these different sounds and frequencies all over.
I agree. I agree. Well, I'll let you go because I know you're busy. So thank you for taking the time to do this with me today.
Oh my gosh, thank you for like reaching out in the first place, and you're very sweet, and I appreciate the time, and it's been a lot of fun questions and everything, and a lot, definitely some questions tonight that made me like reflect, because I think I think especially in LA, and especially I think with a lot of my fellow actor friends, I think it's easy. You're always looking for the next thing, but you're not always processing, your current journey and reflecting on, where you came from and where you're going and where you are, you know.
I love that. So
Thank you for that.
no worries. Well, you enjoy the rest of your day. Have fun with your girlfriend now that she's got her luggage. I will talk to you soon.
Thank you, Kathy.